Miami Dolphins.
The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Throwing deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got a man. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Finn Nation? What's good? Oh, snap diggity. We are back, minus Dante Collinelli. The preseason panel returns, and we're going to make fun of people like Martin, who predicted us to have 4 losses by this time, and praise people like BallGame and Dougley, who were pretty spot on with 2 of our 3 losses to this point. And then we're just going to give a whole bunch of props to Tua Tagovailoa because, goddamn, we got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But other than that, gentlemen, how are y'all doing on this fine evening where Colt McCoy is starting, and really does anyone give a good goddamn about the game tonight?
Hey, Texas legend.
Hey, man, we are smack dab in the middle of this bye week, and it's good, man. 8-2 is what I had us. 7-3 I'll take because, obviously there was a little hiccup, in one of the games. But for the most part, we are right on course and right on par for to being able to put ourselves in a position to be able to claim one of these playoff spots and get in and shake up some things in the postseason. So this is always right now is a good space for us to be. I'm hoping that these guys took the necessary time through this week to rest up, decompress a little bit, and then they got back to work today. So Yeah, it's a good play. It's a good time right now to be a Dolphin fan. So it's all good.
I wanted to ask you guys this because this is we'll just hop right into it here. What's everyone's take on Byron Jones? Because since the offseason, I've said, this doesn't sit well. He's not even on the sideline. He's not even on the bikes. We're not seeing anything. And McDaniel kept telling us he's on pace. He's on pace. And then when the season started, I kept telling everyone I don't see him coming back to the bye. And then I got some info I dropped on the Patreon and I dropped on this channel that, I was told he would have been good to go week 1, but he wants more money. He wants guarantees. There's a reason why he waited to March to get the surgery and didn't get it done in January to activate that guaranteed money so they couldn't move off of him. I mean, we can go deeper into it. Neal, you've heard the same thing in terms of they were all in on J.C. Jackson. And they were trying to move off this guy. We know why. He's a Flores guy. If everyone wants to go back and really do the research, there was clear tension between him and Xavier Howard. If you remember, he took those weird subliminal shots last year about, you guys remember where he was talking about how he wouldn't be, he wouldn't be worried about money. He would be, worried about being a leader. And then X kind of went on that podcast that's hosted by the 2 other former NFL DBs. And he kind of started talking about how, he should be the highest paid player. There's literally obviously some tension going on there. What's your guys' take on this whole Byron Jones thing? Because, like I said, I'm under the guys that he wants more money. He wants some guarantees. And we only got about, $2 million in cap right now. We got guys who want to extend next season. So I don't see them trying to, make more money or ask people to restructure like they did Baker to fit Chubb in. I just don't see them pulling out more money. He wants basically more guarantees because he knows we're moving off of him. This is his last year. And unless he's 110%, he doesn't want to ruin his tape or ruin his image or affect any money or term that might come with his ability to cash in next. That's what I'm led to believe. What's your guys' take on Byron Jones? Do you think we're even going to see him this year? Do you think I am moving forward under the assumption we're not going to see Byron Jones this year? So when you hear me talking hypotheticals, when you hear me talk about the defense moving forward, unless he is in a starting uniform, gentlemen, I'm not there yet because, guys, people seem to be forgetting, and I know y'all don't because we all make content here, so we got to be spot on. People seem to be forgetting that he has got to get activated in a 21-day window, and then at some period in that window, then he has to be activated and for on game day. So there's multiple steps here left to go, and gentlemen, what's your take? How do you see this panning out with Byron Jones?
I can see him getting. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back, but like later on, it makes sense because the type of surgery he had was like a cleanup surgery. It wasn't he didn't tear his Achilles. There was no like structural damage. It was a cleanup back in March. The reports back in March were that he'll be good for training camp. All of a sudden, he wasn't good for training camp, and then they kept asking Mike McDaniel, and he's like, "Oh, we're working him back. We're not trying to rush it." But next year, if they cut him with a post June 1st cut, they save $14 million. So I could see that happening. If he's smart, and I had this discussion on Twitter about this, a lot of people think he's making a business decision here, and to me, that's not a good business decision because his play last year was all right. It wasn't great. It's not one that you're going to get a nice fat contract off of, like X could have gotten after the 2020 season. It was all right. So to make a business decision, you get your butt out on the field and show, oh, I could still play. I'm still that guy. I'm the guy who helped X get the targets because no one wanted to throw it to me. You prove it. So if he is pulling some childish stuff by saying that he's healthy and he could have went week 1, but I want more money, that's not a good look. And
I want guarantees, right? Yeah, like even if it's restructured and pulling up, but I will play agent. Let's call it, instead of devil's advocate, let's play agent's advocate. If I'm an agent, I'm walking in and saying, look at Javon Holland's play now that he has to worry about that side. Byron isn't manning. It's noticeably dipped. Look at X. Instead of sticking to one side, what's he been doing this year? Now you got to travel. You know what I mean? Yeah, and we can't be as aggressive. Now, I know we've lost Brandon Jones and certain other factors have happened, but Byron Jones is a big factor as why we can't be as aggressive and pull the safeties up because we don't have him and X to rely on. And so, because I agree with you, Doug, especially with the team this is built, I don't think this could only be good for his tape moving forward, because I think this defense would find another level and he could turn around and say, look, the defense is playing better with him back. But anyways, ball game, I apologize. The
problem he had right out the gate is that this is probably, he's gone into probably the last contract he's going to get. And at roughly about the season end, he's 30. Right, and he's looking at this situation, thinking to himself, "Well, dang, I came in and solidified this number 2 cornerback spot opposite X," and he's probably thinking just the opposite of what you're thinking, Doug. I mean, in terms of, I helped that guy because I held the whole side down, and he was able to do what he does naturally, and not have to worry about any of that. So he needed me; I didn't need him, type of thing. But that's just the nature of how I think the guys, when they're out there outside the numbers, that's how they think. Right, they're independent contractors anyway. I can't be mad at the man for wanting this money, but you know what I'm saying, at the end, it doesn't make logically a lot of sense to me that you would miss out on this ride, because the more they prove that they can win without you, the less value you ultimately have over the course of the time left that you got, because then people will be like, well, they still did it. And yeah, you probably would have been a little bit better in pass coverage, but they did it nonetheless without you. My thing would have been, I'd be back out there as soon as possible, putting the tape out there, and at least have something to say, you know what, I was a part of this process, as opposed to, well, I'm in my feelings because they tried to go get somebody younger, which is what most teams are going to do anyway. Go get somebody younger, more athletic, with a lot more upside, and
they're going to pick X over you. So I don't know what you're really.
He's homegrown. He's homegrown. So at that point, you don't really have that much. I don't think he has really a lot of bargaining power, and he's losing more and more every week that they win, and they're going to continue to win. And regardless of how many points they give up, the W is what matters the most. And as long as this team keeps progressing towards getting to the playoffs, and they win a couple playoff games, and they get to the Super Bowl without him, everybody line. If you're a GM with your weight and gold, you're gonna be like,
Well, let me ask you this,
what?
boys, as we get deeper in the season, because people keep talking about Kadir Kahu, and people need to stop mentioning that name with Byron Jones because Kahu's in the slot, okay? So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Justin Bethel and the Keon Crossman. Let me ask you this again, boys. Let's continue on Byron Jones. As we get into week 15, because, 21-day window, that would take us into week 14?
Yeah.
As we get deeper into the season, are you good? Do you want to bring in the guy who's cold as a turkey? Or are you going to keep rolling with Keon Crossman and Justin Bethel, who, quite frankly, Bethel's been an unsung hero, and they're getting more acclimated to this defense and what Boyer's asking of them. They're in game shape. He's not going to be in game shape. And as we get closer to, especially if he misses and says, I want to come back in the playoffs, now you're going to have to go up against, probably more than likely legit weapons, because there's a reason why there's only a certain amount of teams make the playoffs. And we really want to put our defense or our team in that position, even if at the end of the day, it is lesser talent out there. Do you see the point I'm kind of making? Am I wrong?
Yeah. No. You got it's a great point, because at the end of the day, as a coach, right, I'm mentally preparing myself to go forth and build my plans around who's here, not who I want to be here. And at the same time, if guys are going out and giving me an above average effort, right? Regardless of the name, the guys opposite X, if they're doing at least above average, I can win with that, because the offense now at this point is in key. And all we got to do is create maybe 1 or 2 stops. That's it. That's all you really want your defense to do now in this era of football. 1 or 2 stops. And if your offense is clicking, you can win a lot of games that way, because the other team is never going to be able to dig themselves out of that 14-point hole. As long as the offense is clicking, we good. And we don't need to rely on the defense as much anymore. And that's the problem that he's having, because these guys are giving us an above average, not a much, but an above average effort, and it's been better, over the course of the last 2 games. There was some games that was really ridiculous, but they dialing it in. So he hurt himself, in my opinion.
Neal, how would you feel? You're sitting there watching, and this guy finally comes back. He finally gets activated out of the 21-day window. It's our first playoff game, and out the gate, this guy's getting burnt.
Yeah, if you want me to be honest, I found out this week that children listen to me when I do these podcasts, so I won't use foul language. But beat Brian Jones, you know what I mean? You learn a lot about a guy in a situation like this, right? The guy, I know that this is his last time to cash in, but he's made $70 million in his career, and he's never won anything. He could jump on a football team right now, strengthen the back end of this defense, and for the Dolphins, who are already a legitimate Super Bowl contender, in my opinion, that could just be the perfect jolt to get him over the hump. And the fact that he's sitting back making business decisions all year while this team's been putting in hard work, at this point, I don't even care if he comes back, to be honest. And he's going to be rusty. And let's be honest, we made him the highest paid quarterback in football, and he never played at that level. He played good football, but he never played at that level. And the writing was on the wall that his tenure in Miami was over as soon as they made that trade for Bradley Chubb, because they went saying from the corners are not going to be the strength of this team anymore. It's going to be our pass rush. And Byron Jones, to Douglie's point, we're going to save $14 million by label him a post-June cut. I don't see there's no way that move does not happen.
Yeah.
And that's great, because that does a disservice back to him. Mm-hmm. Because if he doesn't want to play ball with us and help us out, sometimes franchises will, the Dolphins have done this over the last couple of years where they could have saved more money on a post-June cut, but they were good to their player and they let him go out to the open market and maximize their potential earnings. Well, if Byron Jones, and you can hear the frustration in Mike McDaniel's.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys. You guys have seen his whole demeanor, Neal, has changed from
week to week
where we are. Right,
Mm-hmm.
Neal, you've noticed it. He seems dejected and there's more to it. It's clear, right?
Well, it's exactly what happened here in Baltimore with Ronnie Stanley when Stanley was coming back this year. A lot of the people, that cover the team here locally, a lot of the coaches thought Ronnie Stanley was healthy enough to come back sooner, but he wanted to come back when he was 100%. To play devil's advocate to everything I just said, Ronnie Stanley got hurt. He's waiting on our MRI from yesterday, and he hurt the same ankle that he had hurt coming into the season. And if you notice, the Ravens are a totally different team when Ronnie Stanley's on the football field. Yeah. But, for me, Byron Jones, the guy's a good cover guy. He doesn't make a lot of plays on the football. He seems like at this point, it seems to me like he's playing about, he's getting bad advice from his agent. He's playing for Byron Jones. And you can't win championships with guys that think about I. You need the guys that think about the team. And that's the beauty of this Dolphins team right now is that when Xavier Howard's not having his best season, someone's there to pick him up, right? When, when we're out for a couple games without Tua, we have the team rally behind these other players. There's unbelievable camaraderie that I see on that team that I haven't seen since Richmond and Dan and those guys. I mean, like, you could get through to the Dave Wannstedt era, to the Cam Cameron era. Like, those teams, I'm just good. They were soft football teams that had a lot of players that didn't care what was best for the team. They were living in Miami. They didn't pay taxes with all the things we hear. But this football team is different because they want to win. And I think that's the biggest difference here. So you know what? I don't want Byron Jones to come back at this point. He doesn't get to go to the playoffs. You know what I mean? He doesn't get to get what all the hard work this team's put on because he's had a chance to activate that window, and he chose to sit there and watch other people be successful. And sometimes that comes back to bite you because even though Kader Kohu's playing in the slot, Kader Kohu's playing at the same level Byron Jones did last year. I just say what it is. And at the end of the day,
I just have to think he's playing a little better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Justin Bethel's not even – is he really that been far off when they've given him snaps for a guy who hadn't seen that kind of snaps in 7 years?
Right.
The guy's made plays. He's made more plays on the football than Byron's made in the whole time he's been here.
Yes, it's really disappointing.
He's a better tackler.
And it's funny too because Byron wants more guaranteed money and stuff. We don't need Byron. People will forget Trill Williams is going to be coming back. Brandon Jones is going to be coming back.
We'll get Nick on the cheap because he'll be hurt, right?
They'll bring back Nick Needham. And all of a sudden, we have a pretty good young secondary. We don't need Byron. And we have the second-round pick. We'll go out and get one. We have 2/3. We don't need
plenty of corners coming out, too.
And look at how all interchangeable those guys are, Doug. Nick can play the slot. They've been playing him at safety the past couple of years, or he can play the boundary. Trill can play safety or the boundary. Look at all these guys are just not one-trick ponies, too. I wanted to see Trill. I thought Trill was going to make Byron irrelevant anyways, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to get Trill Williams back next year as well.
So, Richmond, you've played with guys. I'm not going to name names.
Please don't. Please don't. Please
but
don't.
You've heard the term thrown around business decision. There's no way, whether it's been in college, people were making business decision for their draft status or whatever. It happens. And have you ever been around that in any sense that's affected like a team or, is it just one of those things where, I look at it, listen, the fan in me doesn't like what Byron's doing, but the man in me says, hey man, if you got to get your bag, however you got to get your bag, I'm not going to knock away a man makes his money or gets his money. You know what I mean? So
they won't be getting any more from us.
Yeah, exactly. They won't have any Dolphin logos on those dollar bills, but how do you perceive the situation, and how have you always perceived guys in the league who have been about their business? Because to a certain extent, you can't fault guys,
Yeah, it's guys normally approach it one or two ways, and Dudley, Neal, BallGame, everybody's brought up valid points, and I agree with all of them. I do think that the Dolphins will do the post-June cut next year, save that cap money. But normally guys will either take two approaches to it. They'll take this approach and say, well, I'm not going to play until, I get that contract. Or some people say, you know what, I'm going to just come in, ball out, and then I'm going to let my play speak for myself. Even if they don't pay me, somebody's going to pay me. And I think the risk that you run when you do it this way, when you kind of hold out this way, the thing that, and I think Byron should understand, he's been in the league long enough, that even if you go to another team, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to call the team that you just came from. They're going to ask about your attitude. They're going to talk to the coaches. They're going to talk to the medical staff. If you think going through the draft process is tedious, when you're going to give a guy that kind of money that he's expecting, he's wanting, they're going to do the same thing. And the question I would ask if I was a GM at another team, whatever, say, okay, if he gets upset or he's not happy with us, will he do the same thing here that he just did with the previous team? So it makes it tough sometimes for you to say, do we really want to invest that money in? And I think it could actually cost him some money, especially when I just heard you say, Coach McDaniel during the press conferences, he seems like something's not sitting right. He's not going to just come out and call him out, but
yeah,
it's not a good situation.
It's obvious his demeanor's changed because he's such a bubbly guy, and he's gone from being positive about Byron to like,
And like you say, when you got this team camaraderie and everybody's kind of playing, we've talked about it on the show. Do you want to disturb that? And we're not in the same situation like Neal brought up. The last couple of years we've been in, we got to win the last 7 or 8 to just make it in there. But right now we're sitting in the second position overall of the playoffs. I mean, we still got work to do, but I'd rather be here than to be fighting every week and saying we can't afford to lose the game or we out. So, like you said, with the offense putting up the production they're doing and the defense is maybe not as good, but you're still winning, you can compensate, and then you're getting a ton of other guys' experience. So you got to be smart. It can come back to bite you.
If your offense is superior and your defense is average, you can still win a Super Bowl in this era. So
yeah,
Martin,
I'm with
you're
you.
real
And
quiet,
look at the
bro.
Warriors that we have on this football team. Now, just kind of last thing to beat this dead horse here. But we have Jalen Waddle on this team who played in a national championship game on a bad ankle with nothing to prove, but he wanted to be out there so bad for his team. You have a guy like Landon Roberts. You know the way that dude's hitting, with all the injuries he's had in his career, that guy's hurting.
CTE waiting.
Yeah, but he's out there playing. Look at Tua. Tua, had his brain scrambled, and that dude's been trying to get back. He got back on the field, and he's playing MVP football. You have guys on this team that are willing to sacrifice their longevity to win, and we've got a guy who's made $70 million in his career, who's only asked to be the number 2 corner and do his job, but he's too good to be a part of this. And it's just, to me, it's beyond frustrating. And when someone gets to that point in business, when their ROI, right? I do everything based on the return on investment. We have not got a good return on investment for Byron Jones. He's been a good player, but he is very replaceable. And one of the positions of strength in the second day 2, round 2 and 3 next year is cornerback. We can go out there, get a Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, and let's have at it.
It's a good class next year. Yeah,
I'm okay with Byron Jones.
I wanted Keeley, but there's names I can settle for in the second and third. Yeah. Martin, before we move on for some victory laps on preseason predictions, because I'm going to bring it up for everyone to remind everyone here. Martin, your thoughts on the whole Byron Jones situation?
This is actually touchy, man, because I don't like to use the word hypocrite because it's such a strong word. Like Tony Montana said, man, all I have is my balls and my word. And in Byron Jones' case, like you mentioned earlier, Reason, he literally subliminally called out one of his teammates that was looking.
I know you remember that.
Yeah. I mean, with a straight face too. Like, I would never do that to my team. Like, it was on that level.
And now that we covered that on this channel. Remember, we're like, yo, is that drama?
Yeah. I remember it very vividly, but now that you see how the tables have turned and you're looking at it, you're like, it's like, wow, okay, so this is who you really are, huh? You Brian Flores kind of rubbed off on you, brother. But at the same time, I say to myself, you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. We just have to
not the rub.
Look at it as okay. We have to look at it as, you know what? He just won't be along for the ride. That's exactly how you have to look at it. And as much as we would like to have that type of player on the field, not only because we're paying him to be there, but he's an upgrade. He's a talented football player. And
but is he though? At this point, we don't know because he been gone. So
ball game. Let's be clear. No different than Deshaun Watson. No different.
I'm a DB guy.
I like
bro.
how
I'm a DB guy, but at this point, if I haven't seen a guy,
Waters just cut you off, Martin.
If I haven't seen a guy, I'm not gonna crown him for anything. He got to prove to me who he is. Especially, we don't know what he looked like coming out that injury at this point. But I do know that those young guys, and the guys that we brought in, them guys out there, they're fighting. They're fighting to feed their families. They're fighting to be a part of this ride that we on, and that matters to me. As somebody that's sitting back watching this thing unfold, that matters to me a lot more. The individuals standing on the sideline talking about counting their dollars for later. I ain't got no. I don't know. We've been
You got
out of the
got no love for
too
it. Yeah.
long, bro. Too long. We've been out of the picture, on the friends, hoping to get in for too long to have this type of selfishness. Like,
yeah,
I'm all about players getting their dollars. Y'all know that. But at the end of the day, if it's gonna cost us the end result, man, whatever it is, move on without you, dude.
And BallGame, it was said earlier, this might just be one of the situations where his agent is not advising him the right way, and it's just playing out into, you know what, him sitting out is doing much worse than it would be doing good, not only for himself but the entire team. And there ain't too much we can do about it, man. It's either he's gonna come or he's not. And Mike McDaniel mentioned it, I think earlier today. I think I seen a clip of him talking about, you know, he's hopeful. You know what I mean? He's hopeful that Byron will return this season.
Went from on track to hopefully he's going to return this season.
To me, it's the way he did it.
Right.
Like,
let's get out. We've given Byron like almost a half hour. Let's we got other stuff to talk about. Let's get on to the predictions here. Okay, so this is what we had up until week 11 for you guys. So I had them at 8-2. Richmond had them at 7-3. Sorry, 8-3 after Texans, and I got them 8-2. But up until that point, he had them at 7-3. I had them at 8-2. Doug had them at 7-3. BallGame had them at 8-2. Dante, who's not here, had them at 7-3. Neal had them at 8-2. Look at the non-believer Martin right now. Come after him, Dolphins Twitter. He had 4 losses.
Go get him.
So he had him at 6-4. Now, the key thing here, though, is Doug and BallGame were the only ones that got the Vikings and the Bengals. BallGame was also the only one who had us beating the Ravens.
And the Bills.
Yeah, and the Bills. So I mean, victory laps there. For y'all, no one had us losing to the Jets.
Yeah.
But what is
circumstances?
Yeah, I know, right? But this is now when you look at it, this is how you guys. Just to remind you guys, if you didn't remember, this is how we have the rest of the season playing out. So, I have them losing 3 of the last 7 to San Fran, to Green Bay, which I'm going to be wrong on for that, I can guarantee you, and Buffalo. Richmond has them only losing to the Chargers and the Bills. Doug has them losing to the Chargers, the Bills, and the Patriots. BallGame has a 3-game stretch of not a Merry Christmas. He has a loss to the Bills, the Packers, and then the Patriots. Dante just like expects the bottom to fall out. Neal with that 4-game losing streak. Neal, he has he's everyone's kind. Are y'all really worried about the Chargers now? Because I'll admit, I'll take back if I could take back this Green Bay loss, I'd take it back.
Me
Are
too.
y'all really worried about the Chargers?
No.
I take back the Patriot loss too. I think
I'm gonna be honest with you. If I could take back anything right now, it'd be the 49ers. It'd be the
You're
Green
not
Bay
worried about the 49ers? I'm worried about that. That's one of the few games that worries me left on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Really?
But I mean,
we got problems when guys get to our edge quick, and that outside zone, they can get to our edge quick.
They gotta deal with the same problems we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're built for it, right? They're built up front in that zone with their front is built more to contain than ours is right now.
Yeah, their corners aren't built to cover Hill and Waddle. That's for sure.
That's a fact.
Oh, I agree 110%. But I mean, I think their offense is going to give our defense problems.
Right. That's the key.
You know they're 10-2 when Jimmy G doesn't throw a touchdown in game. Do you realize
crazy.
that when he starts and he doesn't throw a touchdown, they're 10-2. And Eli Mitchell's healthy. Everyone keeps sleeping on Christian McCaffrey. When he's fully healthy, one of the best football players
in the league. Yeah, that's true.
We know what Debo and Ayuk and Kittle can do, and they got a damn good offensive line. It's just what kind of day is Jimmy G gonna have?
Right.
So
all facts.
Don't sleep. And their defense is. We think our front 7 is solid. They actually have linebackers. Think about that.
Right. Greenlaw and Fred Warner are beasts.
Yeah.
You know.
And they got some damn good guys in the secondary. We were talking about Hufanga when we went live, man. People sleep on that kid, but we got a good Samoan quarterback. They got a good Samoan safety that'll lay the lumber.
Right.
I don't trust it, bro. And it's the West Coast trip.
Right.
You know,
I think we lose one of those
the
games.
protege versus mentor thing, you know,
right.
Like if anyone's going to know how to stunt our offense, I mean, we saw, did anyone expect we'd see the Browns take away the vertical threat? Now, Tua still threw for over 300 and took what they gave him and still sliced and diced. But did we expect the Browns of all teams to take away the vertical threats, the secondaries we've seen up to this point? So I think Kyle Shanahan, if anyone knows how to beat our offense, that's the best guy we're looking at.
I think maybe the silver lining of all this is we see coming out of the bye week, let's say we go ahead and do what we're supposed to do against the Texans, and then we head over to the West Coast for literally a 3-week vacation, basically. I don't think we're coming back to Miami until it's time for us to meet Green Bay. And I think that would be the best approach, if you ask me. So to make sure that we adapt, we adapt and stay focused. Now, I believe if we go into San Francisco with all of what you just laid out, Reason.
If we win in San Francisco, we're running the table.
If we get that dub in San Francisco, I think that tells the world, okay, get out the way. you know what I mean? I think that's what happens.
Next to the Bills, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Next to the Bills, that's the most complete playoff team and one of the best NFC playoff teams I think you could face right now in that last stretch of games.
Absolutely.
I think that's a legitimate playoff. That team we saw last year, that team out of nowhere can go to the NFC Championship because of how skilled they are on both sides of the football.
Right. Well coached as well.
Very well coached.
Hey man, it's a reality. If Mike McDaniel can pull the hat trick, because this is definitely one of the games he circled as soon as the schedule came out. Clearly, it's one of the games. If he can find a way to get it done, I'm convinced that the only thing that's going to stop us is like
health,
health or bad calls or whatever it might be. But no, I don't think the Dolphins can lose another game if they got to San Francisco with a W.
What do y'all think about that? What do you guys think about this? Can the Dolphins win out? How do you view the rest of the schedule now that we're in hindsight and you're seeing it in front of you? What do you guys think?
If there's one game to be lost.
Go ahead, Doug, and then ball game you can go.
I honestly think that they can. There's no game on the rest of the schedule they can't win, and not necessarily because of their defense, but because the offense. They've shown multiple times against the Ravens, against the Bills, against the Lions, against the Bears, that if they need to go into a shootout, I have no more qualms anymore. It's 3rd and 12. I'm not like, oh my god, we're in such a long down. 3rd and 22. Tua dotted up against the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, the offense doesn't scare me anymore. So if we get into a shootout, it doesn't really worry me. I don't really feel like any defense can really stop our offense. And on the defensive side, we just need those one or two stops to get us a distance enough on offense that we can win the game. So like the San Fran game and the Chargers, staying on the West Coast on those we could, possibly win both those games. The Buffalo game is going to be hard because, you're coming back and then you're going to have to go to Buffalo. But those last 3 games don't worry me at all. I honestly think, 12-5 is very realistic and possibly win the division.
Doug, are you worried? Are you worried about the Bills with how Josh Allen's been playing lately?
Not at all. Not at all.
Damn, that was quick.
Boys, he's worse than what he was when we gave him 93 snaps and he couldn't get it done. I don't know what to thought. I agree.
And he said his elbow's fine. He literally said it's fine. So there's something else going on.
He's lying.
Yeah,
he's lying.
Mental.
I'd say that too, just so nobody wouldn't target it. But you can clearly watch him throw the ball and some of the throws he's trying to make, and he's rubbing that thing, and it's not getting better because he is their offense. They're not leaning on the run game. They're gonna win or lose with Josh Allen. So therefore, that arm, that elbow is not gonna get any better, and it's gonna be a problem. When we see him again, he's gonna be 100%. So it is what it is. We just gotta be able to battle through the hell. Maybe they'll move our game too. Hoping they get another 77 inches of snow. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think, Neal?
Yeah, no, I think I think we're going to go 12-5, and I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think that Buffalo game's tough, and like I just think that one team could sneak up on you. But what I'm excited about more so is what could happen after the regular season, because I think this Dolphins team is really dangerous because the offense is only going to keep getting better.
Yep.
The more continuity that they have, like we forget that this is Tua's coming up his 8th game starting in Mike McDaniel's system, and we've already seen this. So when we looked at these records at the beginning of the year, the reason you and I talked about is I wanted Tua to be a top 12 quarterback for me to come to this conclusion. And right now he's a top 3 quarterback in football. Whether we like it or not, we love it here, but that's the facts. We don't have to guess about it. That's what the numbers tell us. That's why I think this team can go to Kansas City, and I think they can beat Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
I know that sounds crazy.
I agree with him. He's not.
I think they can go to Buffalo,
bro. Neal, can I tell you this, bro? I'm not even lying. I was sitting there watching Herbert. I'm like, okay, the pick's coming, but when Mahomes was driving, I'm like, it's Tua. I'm like, this is exactly what Tua would do. Tua would drive this football down your throat and put the pressure on Herbert. Go make a play, kid. Let's see what you got. I mean, did he not do it to Atlanta last year? Bad coaching cost us that. Did he not do it to Jacksonville? Bad coaching cost us that. And if you really think about it, I had this conversation with Martin. If you really think about it, Tua really the only loss under his power in the last 2 years was a Tennessee loss because Brian Flores lost him the Jacksonville game, and Brian Flores in the defense lost him the Atlanta game, right? Because I'm going to tell you this. I wanted to say this on this panel. I can identify, I knew the moment, and I talked about this last year, the moment I knew Tua had that dog in him was when he was on that sideline in that Atlanta game and he looked like a deer in headlights after that second interception and the trade deadline was looming. And then he went out and he didn't have a Ravens fourth quarter, but people seem to forget that fourth quarter he put together to get us back that lead. People seem to forget that.
He heard a Falcons defender getting the first down.
Bro. I'm just saying that's when you knew he had that dog in him. And I'm gonna put it on record. I said this to Martin privately, and I'm gonna say it now publicly. Boys, I do the Birdman hand rub when I think about Tua in the playoffs because we watch him on third down. Hold on, we watch him on third down. We watch him on guys. Look what Doug just said. He's got total. It's 3rd and 12. He doesn't even flinch, buddy. It's 3rd and 17. We don't even flinch with Tua. When have you remembered that? You got to go back to Marino again. Right. And he's doing things. Marino never threw 2 consecutive games, and he had bad teams in his schedule. 300+ yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He's the first quarterback since Warner won the MVP in '99, and only the second quarterback to ever do it. 270+ yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 135+ passer rating in 3 consecutive. He's doing things legitimate greats that the positions have done, and there's people that are still in our fan base. Just can't be like, I don't know if you saw my tweet. They're doing the Zach Wilson. Did you let your defense down? Nope. And that's just them with not admitting they're wrong about Tua because he's doing things we haven't seen that when even 1-3 wore the jersey and I'm wearing. We're literally living in the reality where when our offense doesn't score or when we don't convert on third down, we're surprised. You know what I mean? We're in that reality right now. So now that we know and we see what we're capable of, the only thing is maintaining consistency, keeping the foot on the gas. And like you said, Reason, if and when we make it to a playoff scenario, Tua as our quarterback has not shown otherwise to prove that he can't go into any situation and potentially come out on the other end. You think he's good in third? You think he's good on third down and fourth quarter? I'm telling you, put him in a high pressure playoff situation and watch the kid cook. Well, I'm telling you.
And I know you guys all like to watch the games live, and then you kind of watch the film later, right? Like the one thing that I think about this offense that I've never seen in watching Miami Dolphin football is 2 receivers that legitimately could get open on any corner in football whenever the hell they want. Like, and I think when Tua, like as good as Tua's been, he's still building chemistry with Tyreek Hill. Like, there's one of Tyreek Hill in the world. He's probably one of the hardest receivers to get chemistry with because he's so dynamic and so unique, right? And those big bombs that are coming. When
Actually,
they start hitting those, that's when the league's going to be like, holy shit, we have a problem here, guys. This team is not stoppable.
Watch your language, Neil. Watch your language.
Watch your language.
Actually, it's three, Neil, because Sherfield does an amazing job of getting open too.
Yeah,
too.
But bro, can we also hold on? Let's also give our flowers here. The one thing, like if you go back and watch, especially last year when we were breaking down the film, me, Martin, and BallGame, because we do every Tua dropback. So we would literally sit there and mock the play design and the scheme, and we'd be like, what the hell is this? Like what kind of jabroni amateur hour stuff is this, right? But
what is this, amateur hour?
But this year you watch it, and the designs, like the flowers we've given to the designs and the concepts that McDaniel is doing stuff, and it's the simplest stuff, but it's stuff you don't see every day in the NFL. Like he's like, if you actually watch how the plays are designed and how everything's coming together, if you actually watch the film, and this is my next thing, has McDaniel exceeded and lived up to the genius hype? And I'm going to ask you guys this, and I'll start with, I want to ask Richmond this with the predictions though, because I'm sure there was times where he had to go on a West Coast trip and then go play in Buffalo and see a guy by the name of Bruce Smith, maybe. Was that ever a difficult stretch for you before we get into the McDaniel stuff?
I think the difficult sometimes is the time zone. I mean, even when you play 1 on the West Coast, it's like playing at 4 on the East Coast. So it's just the long, 6-hour trip out to the West Coast. But they got 2 back-to-back most of the time. We would have 1 and then have to come right back to the East Coast. But I think out of the 2 games they have out there, I think the 49er game concerns me more than the LA Chargers. That front 4 they got is pretty good, and their offense, and with McDaniel just coming out of that system, out of Shanahan, like you said, if anybody knows possibly how to stop him, he would probably have the best deal. So I think that's going to be a determining factor. I think, not saying we can't win that game, but I think it might be a little bit of a challenge, just because he's been with the guys, so you kind of know the process and stuff like that. But the way they're playing, as long as they continue and barring injury, I think that's the biggest concern. As long as we don't have injuries, we could.
We good.
Yeah, we
something might happen.
But let's stick with Richmond here, and then we'll go around to all of you guys. Let's go to this McDaniel thing, because this man was under Don Shula. Okay. And I've sent you some of the all 22 this year. Now you've been watching pass blocking, but I'm sure you've been watching the concepts in the passing as well. We heard the tag, and I was one of them since last year when, and Martin knows all about it in BallGame. I wanted him as our OC last year. It was him or Pep Hamilton I wanted as our OC last year. And the genius was something I was throwing around last year about him. Has he exceeded and lived up to that genius tag for you, especially when you watch the stuff we've done offensively and the next level he's been able to take that Shanahan offense, because we've never seen it with this kind of vertical threat before?
I think the thing is, for me, is it doesn't surprise me with the offensive mind, but when you've never been a head coach, you always kind of question or wonder, how will this guy perform as a head coach versus being a coordinator? Because a lot of times guys get that position, and normally the first time, sometimes they kind of struggle or it doesn't go as smooth as you think it has. But, I mean, he's hit the ground rolling, and he's brought something. I think his energy has flowed throughout the building. And he brought in the right people. He brought in the right weapons. It's almost like he said, okay, we got a chance to get Tyreek. We already got Waddle, this and that. And he was like, man, if I get these guys and Tua picks up my system, and you mentioned it before, even with Garoppolo, we talked about it last week, and I mentioned how you said he couldn't even run all the plays that he wanted to when he was with the 49ers based on, because, Jim Garoppolo was limited, where Tua, you seeing stuff. And I even look at some of the blocking schemes, and I'm like, y'all gonna just let that man go? But it happens so fast that it like
right.
It's not normal, because normally you say, okay, this is what should happen. I react this way, but then it's like nobody blocks me, but the ball's gone, and then like you kind of figuring out what the hell happened. So yeah, I look at the all 22 sometime, and I'll be tripping. I don't watch it with y'all, but you'll send it to me, and I'll be like, I can't knock it because it's working. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
It's unconventional.
A lot of
the things he do,
it's renovated.
It's totally unconventional. He's running concepts that you never really see together. Like he has like two parts of the flood with basically like a dagger coming through on the back. You know what I'm saying? It's like who does that? You know what I mean? And then the guys are nowhere. There's like 8 to 10 and 10 to 12 yards of separation between every receiver. So it stresses the zones to have to really play to the last possible extension where it turns into something else that somebody's supposed to pick up. So all those sweet spots that, you know what I'm saying, where the safeties and 4 are supposed to come down and sit, but they, you know, when they're supposed to poach at, he's sitting guys at 11. Their routes don't start to 12, so you got a whole yard and a half of separation in there, and you know, and our guys are catching those things and getting down, and it's like first down, clipping off 15, 17 yards of pop, and it's like, how do you defend it? Because it's unconventional.
I'm gonna say this, and BallGame might be the only guy that can remember this, but most of y'all are younger than me, but there used to be a cartoon when I was a kid called The Jetsons, and it was like,
oh, come on, we remember that. Yeah, we remember that, man.
Hey, honey, can you make my bottle for me? Like, what is this going on?
Most of y'all probably grew up on the Power Rangers and stuff. But
Green Ranger just takes his life, and we're taking shots at the Power Rangers. All right,
George Jetson.
Right.
George
but you know how
baby.
The Jetsons, you would watch it and they flying around in space. It's almost like his offense is there, and everybody is
exactly. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Everybody else is still Flintstones, and he's
light years ahead right now, man.
Well, let's talk Doug. Have you noticed a trend though, Doug? I gotta Doug, because you know, just as a content creator, a lot of our audience, not like a big portion, but a lot of our audience, they never experienced the Shula and the Marino era. There is a big portion of our audience that's never seen that. But if you look at it, have you noticed this trend, Doug? Because Richmond brought it up and talked about his energy. Have you noticed the success we've seen with guys in the last 20 years when we've had someone in that position? It's been energy guys, Sperano, right? People didn't like Dave Wanstead, but he was a
good player.
He was an energy guy, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think, Doug? Has he exceeded your expectations, Mike McDaniel, in the first year?
I'm going to hit on a few notes because I got to get out of here. So
okay, buddy, go ahead.
Make sure I hit on a few of your notes. First off, yeah, me and you've had discussions privately where you were very, like you said, very big Mike McDaniel guy. And I was like, but is he that good? And you're like, Doug, trust me. And I'm like, all right, I'll see. Like, I was very apprehensive about it. Now, like BallGame was talking about, there's the one play, I think it was against the Bears or the Browns, where Mike Gesicki runs a corner route, but he took Tyreek Hill and ran an in route. And while Tyreek Hill's running the in route, the corner jumps down because he's terrified of Tyreek Hill. There goes Gesicki up corner, and it's just he drops the ball to him. Like BallGame said, the way he schemes things and move. The Lions game, he ran the same play 3 times in a row where Tyreek Hill came over, smacked Tua on the butt, then ran the other way. They ran the ball. He did it again, and Tua noticed that the linebacker stopped following Tyreek Hill. First down, game over. Like, it's just the way that Mike McDaniel just knows how to move things around. Our offense, like I said, we could win any game for the rest of the year because the offense can do whatever. To touch upon other things, just because I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Josh Boyer. I am very hesitant about Josh Boyer, but I understand what he's dealing with the corners, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go after like Vic Fangio, maybe some big name in there, because if our offense is playing at 11 and our defense is playing at least a 6, it's not matching up.
Yeah.
We need it up there. So I don't know if him or Danny Crossman really come back. And when it comes to the MVP talk, it's like, who do you give it to? Because Tua, like Neal said, top 3. It's not even top 5 at this point, because I know a lot of us were saying, you know, this season could be real good if Tua plays top 15.
Yeah,
we were saying, and this man is top 3. Like, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. A lot of people want to call it a scheme thing, but
You
It ain't just a scheme thing.
You can give Tua MVP and give Tyree Offensive Player of the Year, and nobody ain't gonna argue.
No.
But let me, okay,
Right.
Doug, just to continue your thoughts before we get out of here. Would you agree Tyreek wins it if he breaks 2K though?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And the funny thing is, a lot of people said that, oh, Tyreek Hill's going to fall off playing with Tua, or oh, he's having a career year with Tua Tagovailoa. So maybe he wasn't wrong in the offseason when he said that this is the most accurate guy he ever played football with.
Yeah. I love it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Love you all.
All right,
Take it easy, brother.
Peace, Dougie.
Richmond, how you doing on time? Do you got to get out of here? Or you good?
I got about 20 minutes, so I'm good.
Okay, we're good.
You know, the thing I was gonna say too is when y'all just said that if Tyreek was to win the MVP, Tua would probably be his biggest fan, be happy for him. It's like that's what's different about this team is everybody's happy for each. It's not like, oh man, well I've been one of the best quarterbacks. He's happy because it's and vice versa. If Tua wins it, Tyreek will be just as happy. It's just it's rarely you get these many guys on the same page playing as a team as one unit and no animosity. And I just don't see it. I was there for the Browns game, and I'm telling you, man, it's something different about this team. It's just if they stay healthy and the way they're playing. Man, it's good to be a Dolphin fan right now. That's all I can say.
That's a good hold on. That's a good segue because Neal, I know he pays attention to the cap a lot. He's talking about Tua right now, and he's talking about how everyone gets along in this camaraderie. We've talked about it a few times tonight. I'm of the firm belief that Tua is not going to break the bank because he's going to want to keep all the boys together. What are your thoughts, Neal? Let's get into this. Let's talk about it because let's be real, because if we actually sit back as Dolphin fans, there's the probability tells you this offense is going to be even better in year 2.
Yeah.
What do we do with the contract extension with Tua? Because I'm of the thing of if he keeps playing at this level, the latest I'd wait till next year is week 8. You got to get it done ASAP if he's playing at this level. And do you think he's going to break the bank?
So I think first the salary cap is as real as Bigfoot running in the woods, right? Like we've seen the Saints were negative $77 million heading into last offseason, and they added Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry and re-signed Jameis Winston. With that said, I think Tua is going to get the money he deserves. And I think that's what, look, these new TV deals are coming in. The cap is going to go up substantially. So, there's going to be more than enough money to pay Tua. The Dolphins actually have very good structures to the deal, so they have a lot of flexibility.
Thank you, Brandon Shore.
Yeah, but I'm a huge fan. I'm loving this wave. But as the businessman in me, I'm not paying Tua until I have to. And the reason I say that is he's happy here. He's making top 5 overall pick money, but we have to see him stay healthy for the whole year. I mean,
that's fair.
You can't invest all that money, guaranteed money, especially on a player. And then if he goes down, look at Baltimore right now. They should have probably paid Lamar Jackson a while ago, but they drew a line in the sand and said, we can't risk what is the Baltimore Ravens for one player. I think Tua is going to get a big money deal. I think he's going to work out and stay healthy. But the Dolphins don't have to rush it and panic to make it happen. I mean, they have him under control for 2 more years with that 5-year option. I think that part of the advantage of drafting a young quarterback is to be able to have that window to go get a Bradley Chubb at the deadline and go get players to get you over the hump. You pay your quarterback, and that gets a lot harder.
But you talked about those deals coming through, right? If you can get his deal done before those deals come through, even a year or 2 into his deal, it's all of a sudden.
Did Herbert get a new deal already?
Yeah, but what has he done?
Nah. Did he?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't got a new deal.
All right, good.
Well, because I do think there's something to say that you don't want to be the last one of the 3, right? You don't want Burrow and Herbert to get the money and then be like, holy crap, because then Tua will be at his highest price if he's the 3rd guy. But I think
that's what I'm worried about, though, Neal. That's what I'm worried about, Neal. It's looking like, we're now 3 years into both of these guys. me and Martin were having this conversation. You want to know a scary thing? Because we used to, I know you watched the Herbert film coming out. Remember one of the big knocks we had on him coming out was it looked like he wasn't growing. Remember, it looked like he wasn't taking steps and leaps in his game as a senior. It looked like he was the same guy he was as a junior.
Right.
Don't you get that vibe with Herbert right now that it looks like in the certain aspects he's supposed to be taking the next steps in, Herbert's not taking those steps in. He's not reading all three levels consistently. He's still getting panicky under pressure and forcing throws. He's not, he's not cleaning things up where we asked Tua to clean things up and he's cleaned things up, and, Herbert looks like, let's be honest. What would you take right now? And this is an honest question, Neal. Would you take Herbert in 2022 or rookie Herbert right now?
I would take.
That's a good question, eh?
Yeah, I would take rookie Herbert. And one of the things about Justin Herbert, right? He's got tools for days. He's always had the tools.
Agreed. One of the most gifted guys there is.
My last draft that I covered for Pro Football Network, I had him ahead of Joe Burrow as my number 3 overall player. So I had Tua, Chase Young, then Justin Herbert. But the one thing that I put as a con about Justin Herbert is I said, I think he's afraid to be great. And what I meant by that was when the game's on the line, he wants to play it too safe. The best champions take risk. They put it on the lines. Think about like the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Tom Brady. They will their team to championships when the odds are stacked against them. Justin Herbert in his last collegiate game at Oregon when he was a senior, I don't remember the exact scenario.
Talk about the bowl game?
He had a last chance to tie a game and throw a ball in the end zone with the clock expired, and he literally threw the ball out of the back of the end zone. And to me, that right there was the single moment where I was like, yep, I'm sticking to it. Tua is the guy for the Dolphins. But I think he's better as a rookie because there was less expectations. Pressure does two things. It builds diamonds and breaks pipes. And, he had no pressure on him when he was a rookie. He was actually, probably the biggest surprise of the NFL that year. But I think he kind of plateaued there. He's got to get this team in the playoffs eventually, or they're going to give up talking about how great he is.
Yeah, Herbert's the quintessential he peaked in high school quarterback right now. So I as much as I love watching quarterback play, I'm with the both of y'all. Rookie Herbert is better than this Herbert right now, just based off of pure, want to and pure, wielding, his team into contention. Because again, I think the stat is during his rookie year, started 15 games, lost 9 of them, but 7 of the 9 losses was by a single possession or something like that, right? So, like how you keep saying, Neal, maybe he is scared to be great. Maybe it is a mental block.
Listen, I talked about how I knew. Listen, I just gave y'all the example of when I knew that dog was in Tua, right? The Atlanta game, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Here's when I knew it was nothing but kittens inside of Herbert. When they pan to this guy on the sideline, and that Raiders game last year, and he's saying, "Man," and you read his lips, "I've never wanted a tie this badly in my life."
I would never think that in my life.
Real? Buddy, the dog and you should be like, I want to put my throat on these mother, you know what? And I want to choke him out. This guy, I want to tie.
If Herbert was that dude, as soon as somebody say, "Hey, Herbert, what you think about a tie?" He should have just started barking right on.
No, someone let him know. Second place is the first loser, and when there's a tie, there's no winner. So what does that tell you? There are 2 losers. So he needs to be told what the deal is. All right, this part.
Yeah.
When I saw him, you know what I thought about? Remember that coach talking about participation trophies, the college coach a couple years ago. Talking about how this new generation, they want trophies for anything, showing up. You want a trophy for showing up or being the best dressed. All these people want participation trophies. Oh, and listen, I might be 37, but I come from Richmond's mentality of back then, bro.
Right.
There's only one winner at the end of the season. I'm not trying to hear consolation prizes and you need a little pat on your head for coming in second and third, man. That's why that's why the soft generation. Everyone wants a participation trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unreal, bro. Enough of my rant about
For no reason. I think the most dangerous person in the world is the one that will smile to your face and then slit your throat, right? And that's what I like about Tua Tagovailoa, right? He'll get up on that podium and tell you all the things you want to hear, smile. He takes, the big story today, Zach Wilson account. I've never seen a player take more accountability than Tua Tagovailoa. He'll throw 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and then get on a microphone and tell everyone he wasn't good. But deep down inside that dude,
he would have never done what Zach Wilson did, Neal.
Deep down in Tua's heart, man, he has a passion for this game, and he has a passion to prove all those doubters wrong. And he's having the time of his life right now because he's healthy. He's got a team that believes in him. He's having fun. We all see him out there dabbing today at practice, with Waddle and Hill and Cedric Wilson. Like right now, that's what makes the Dolphins the most dangerous team in football to me. Sure, they got Tyreek Hill. Sure, they got Jalen Waddle, but they have a quarterback that will slit your throat, and end the game.
Yeah. Who's listening to Kittle take it to the house?
Not me.
Not me, man. I'm with you, Neal. I'm with you 100%, man.
Is that ball game?
I'm with you.
Okay. No?
That kid, look, not even that kid, because Tua's becoming a man in front of our eyes. This guy has a wife, he has a kid. I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious
and
that
this grown man on.
Yeah, he's taking this whole thing in full stride, like, oh, I have to be that dude. You know what I mean? And honestly, at this point in time, like I told Reason this before, it doesn't look like he's going to slow down either. Like he's literally he has a chip on his shoulder for the rest of his career, based off of how things were so rocky from his initial get-go, including his injury that he sustained at Alabama. It's been such a long road to getting back to this point, because people forget, Tua was the best quarterback in college football in 2018. Like it wasn't even close. He was the best. And again, the expectation rose in Alabama, which I was like, yo, can it get any higher considering this is Alabama? But he met the expectation. He exceeded it in a lot of times. And now he's in the league, and all of a sudden he's the worst quarterback they've ever seen. It's like, okay. He's gonna listen to it. He's gonna take it, and he's gonna put his head down and go to work. And that's what he's been doing ever since. And this is just year one in this system. And Lord knows, man, you keep building games, you keep building confidence. Who you think you are is gonna eventually become who you're gonna be. If that's the right way to say it. You know what I mean? That. So it's gonna happen.
Let's go through this. I want to quick fire this session. I'll go through each one of you guys. Mid-season awards. Give me your offensive, defensive, special teams, MVP, and your most improved player. Not named Tua. For me, on offense, I'm going to go Tyreek. You can go Tyreek or Tua, but I'm going to go Tyreek because it's been ridiculous. On defense, for me, I'm going to go with Christian Wilkins. On special teams, you got to give Morstead. He's been a breath of fresh air to the ones we have. And for me, the most improved player, not named Tua, for this year has got to be, I mean, for me at least, Trent Sherfield. I mean, no one saw the production he's putting up this year, and it's ridiculous. So, Richmond, who do you got for your positional MVPs and most improved?
I would probably I'd have to agree with you. Probably special teams and offensively, and with Tyreek. I'll go with Tyreek, and not only because of his production as far as what he's doing on the field. I think his leadership ability has been vital to a lot of the guys buying in. I think when you're a veteran and you come from a team that, you've won a Super Bowl, this and that, and then you see a guy like that get paid, but then you come and see how he approaches work day in and day out, not just show up on Sundays, but the way he works during the week to prepare for the games, this and that. And you say, if this guy works this hard, then I got to step my game up. And I think he's been not only for the team, but a good mentor for Jalen Waddle, because he's saying, and he's always giving praise to young guys, like, he's getting it, but he continues to work on this and that. And the unselfishness, I just love it. But that, and then my defensive MVP would, I like Wilkins, but I just lost my train of thought. The safety,
Devon
Holland?
Holland would be my MVP. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ball game. Who do you got?
Tyreek's pretty much a no-brainer right now.
Yeah.
For offense, defense, I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips because those pressures still he's still racking up them.
Ball game, you got a low mic, bro.
Everybody low?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about now?
No, it's still
Oh,
low.
it sounds like you're away from the mic.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
That would help. So Jalen Phillips, man, he's racking up those pressures, man, and the game seems to be slowing down for him. I love Christian Wilkins. I try to tell people that sometimes it take guys a minute for their for things to slow down for them, but Jalen seems to be in the second year, seems to be really coming along, man, and having Chubb on the opposite side of him is just gonna free him up later as we progress through the season. I think he's gonna do some amazing things and rack up the sacks finally instead of just the pressures.
Yeah.
Morstead for me. I mean, when you're talking special teams, Sanders been a disappointment up to this point. I think he's too into his head, but Morstead, man, has been lights out. As a veteran, that's what you expect when you bring him in. So, got to give him that. And then most improved for me would be Mike Gesicki and his blocking, man.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah. Look at Neal's face.
He's been blocked. I actually agree with you.
Neal looks disgusted. Blocking?
I thought that he still had to block.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Martin, who do you got?
Okay, offensively, man, my player, it has to be Connor Williams, man. The way we had him projected when we signed him to play left guard, and for him to just nonchalant, just slide over to clearly the most difficult position to play on the offensive line, and just outside of his snaps that we all know in time it'll become more natural to him. But everything else after the snap has been Pro Bowl, damn near all pro level when it comes to blocking and identification. Love what Connor Williams has done on offense. Defensively, and this might surprise people, man, but Zach Seiler, man, the dude has literally taken it to a point where every time I watch the defense, he's just the guy that I just see always just popping off on the screen. And I'm like, you know what, man? Without Zach Seiler, I don't know where this defense would actually be as far as tempo and viciousness and just point of attack. He just clears the board for me. And for special teams, I hope he gets healthy as soon as possible. Keon Crossman, bro. The guy is as good as advertised when we signed him. Yeah. He makes so many plays for Thomas Morstead with his booming punch. He covers the field very quickly. And most improved, you know what? I'm going with Jalen Phillips. I'm going with Jalen Phillips as the most improved because last year he was racking up sacks, because he was just hitting home. But this year the pressures have increased and he just hasn't finished. But it's going to get to a point in time where those finishes will start happening for the last durations of the season. I just see that happening based off of him playing opposite of Bradley Chubb. So those are my guys for right now.
Can I change mine real quick?
Go ahead.
Alec Ingo.
On offense.
Offense.
Yeah, that dude
hey, man.
good.
Love him. Love
Neal,
him.
what do you got?
So I'll go backwards to save my grand reveal, but we'll start with the most improved, and I got to give it to Robert Hunt. I mean, Robert Hunt went from a guy that was an average guard to a guy who's playing at a Pro Bowl level. I love to see it. Love to see what we have with him, Armstead, and Connor Williams. I think those are three foundation pieces to having a good offensive line here for the next 5 years. Special teams, Keon Crossman. I mean, the way he covers those punts, he's just, he's elite at doing so. So it's for him. Defensive, I mean, I was flipping a coin between Christian Wilkins and Jalen Phillips, but I'm going to give it to Jalen Phillips just because I'm starting to see his pressure be game changing. And I think with the addition of Bradley Chubb, the Dolphins are suddenly going to have one of the best 1-2 pass rushes in this league. And then for me, my MVP's got to be Tua. And the reason why is without him, we saw what happened. We didn't win a game. And, I think Tyreek Hill's the best player on this football team. Tyreek Hill might be the best football player in the world.
No, you're right. Yeah.
But Tua's making, he's kind of, he's the one that's got everything firing on all cylinders. One of the things I really like to see about what I see there though is like to Richard's point earlier, like Tyreek Hill had a game this year where I think he had 5 catches for 42 yards. And I was like, holy shit, I hope that this guy doesn't get pissed because he only had 5 targets, but he was jumping on Tua's back as happy as anything because it's about the team. It's about the bigger picture. And we don't get to see that often as Dolphin fans in the last 10, 15 years. So I got to give it to Tua, but I don't want to underplay what Tyreek Hill's doing. Tyreek Hill is the best football player that I've seen in the Miami Dolphins uniform in the last 20 years. Jason Taylor, all due respect, Zach Thomas, Cameron Wake, like all the great players.
Ricky.
I've never seen a guy just come in and just completely change a culture for the better and then back up all that talk on the football.
And that money, they gave him franchise quarterback money, and he's out here living up to it. Richmond, are you good?
I'm good. I got about 5 more minutes. Go ahead. Okay. Come on with it.
Okay. Do you guys believe before we get out? I got 2 things left before we get out of here. One, do you guys believe Boyer and Danny Crossman come back next year? That's a lot of no's.
Yeah, you don't see my face, but I'm doing exactly what everybody else is. I just shake my head.
Because we got the worst. We can all agree we got the worst special teams in the NFL probably right now, right?
Right.
Yep.
That was easier.
Yeah.
But is that Crossman or is that like Sanders though? Right.
No, well, what do you? I mean, look at the punt coverage we gave, the kickoff coverage we gave up at the beginning of that Browns game.
The Browns game. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead,
the worst
Richmond.
return game I've ever seen. Kick and punt returners. We can never switch the field, and we have Jalen Waddle, but we don't use him.
Yeah, go ahead, Richmond.
No, only thing I was going to say was I just agree with Dudley's point before he had to get out of here. And I understand about the defense, the injuries and stuff we have, but if it's somebody else out there that's better, I could see them possibly upgrade. You know what I'm saying? You take that into consideration. At the same time, you be like, man, if we get this guy here, it just helps everything. So that's why I think everybody's kind of pausing, saying that it could be tough. So,
and we know Boyer wasn't McDaniel's choice. That came from the higher up saying keep it intact, right? So, all right. Finally, before we get out of here, then, boys, and I'll start with you, Neal, because I know you got a list. Big names on this team you think could be gone next year because of the cap, because this is a conversation that's worth having because, Neal, as you sit there and look at it, this team's going to look very similar, but it's not going to be the same next year.
No. But I also don't think we're going to lose a lot that we haven't replaced. So I think Byron Jones is gone. I think they're going to try to find a way to trade Emmanuel Ogbah because they could save $12 million in cap space if they do. It might be hard to do so. A team that jumps out to me because I know they were very interested in him in free agency and they were going to make him a higher offer than we had was the Ravens. Loved Ogbah, and they have Pierre-Paul and Justin Houston and somebody else who's a little bit older on their team. So that maybe you could get a 5th or 6th round pick from Baltimore for Ogbah. I think we all think Mike Gesicki is probably going to be hard to keep around here. So I think he's going to be a big name that's gone. And then I think they're going to try to see if they can get, maybe call the Cowboys and say, hey, we got Cedric Wilson. You guys need help at receiver. Why don't you take this guy back? Send us a late pick. Because I think Trent Sherfield's the third guy on this football team going forward. And I think for the money that we're paying Cedric Wilson, we might be able to retain Jeff Wilson and Trent Sherfield. I think that would
great point.
Cap. The guy who I don't think is going to go that could give us a lot of savings is Jerome Baker. And I think coaching staffs like him, and he gets washed out in the run. There's no doubt about it. But he's a guy who wears a lot of hats out there, and
he's having a decent year.
This year too. Yeah, and he's a good player. And I think we're gonna have a depleted linebacker core because Duke Riley's a free agent, Landon Roberts, Sam McGuavin, like practically everyone is a free agent. So I think Byron Jones is gonna be gone, Gesicki's gonna be gone, probably Agba and Cedric Wilson, and then just low hanging fruit like Ethan Carter probably is gonna be back here if that can save us $3 million. But I also think they're going to do a couple restructures. Armstead and Tyreek Hill, those restructuring them to get us $32 million off the books.
Do you think Tyreek will restructure, Neal? Because remember a couple of years ago the Chiefs asked him to, and he said no.
Yeah, but I thought in Kansas City they were asking him to take less money. Here, if they restructured
they'll just move the money up.
They'll give him bonus up front, so he gets his money faster. So I don't know why he wouldn't take.
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah. You know what? We'll go through some final thoughts before we get out of here. We'll let Richmond start off. Guys, there's still 420 of you in the room. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. Me and Martin are going to be live tomorrow for a special edition of Tua Tuesday. And it's going to be, we have a whole bunch of clips. We put together a nice little fancy video, and it's going to be all about how Tua is killing all these false narratives people tried to lay on him as a passer. We're going to kill the weak arm narrative. We're going to kill the relies on yak, can't throw guys open. We're going to kill a lot of narratives tomorrow night with the all-22. So be sure to be out on the lookout for that. That'll be coming tomorrow, we'll probably be live around 8:30 tomorrow for that. So be out on the lookout for that one. And then next week, we'll be back to our normal Tua Tuesdays with me, BallGame, and Martin. Once the games are back at it. Richmond, let's start with you. Any final thoughts before we get out of here as we head into the Texans week? And we'll be live on Wednesday for the finish line at 8:30 Eastern, me, BallGame, and Richmond Webb as well. But any final thoughts before we get out of here, Richmond?
Yeah, I think the only final thought that I got is it's so refreshing. I think, we're at the midway point, and I think, preseason doing the predictions, that's kind of what you kind of predict, but you just don't know. But I think everybody can kind of agree the Dolphins have by far exceeded everybody's expectations as far as the way they've been playing and stuff like that. And then it gives you even a sense of comfort more for the remaining part of the season that, like you said earlier, it's possible that we could legitimately run the table or, maybe one loss, as long as everybody stays healthy, this and that. They're just playing in a rhythm, and their confidence seems like it's just through the roof, and they don't get phased if, they score, somebody else scores. It's just, it's different. It's kind of hard to put into words, but you just don't see this often. I've seen it with other teams where they kind of get in the rhythm and go, and it's always great when it's your team that's doing it. And I think that's the biggest surprise for me, because you kind of try to predict this and that, and certain things can happen, but it just feels so much better to be 7-3 right now rather than, like I said, the previous couple of years, go on an 0-7 stretch, and then you got to fight to possibly try to have a chance to get in the playoffs, and then they do it in one game, they lose, and then they're out of contention. So, I just feel good where the team is right now, and I think other people around the league are starting to take notice and saying, hey, these guys are legitimate, and we definitely got to, watch them. And then, like you said in your comments, what will next year look like if they did this good this year, the second year in the offense. So I'm happy, good, and all that. So that's what I got, and looking forward to this Sunday for them to continue doing what they've been doing.
Final thoughts, BallGame.
At this point right now, I'm just happy that most of what we predicted and talked about in regards to the growth of this team has come to fruition. I think the biggest thing is we expected some different looks and some different magic from McDaniels, but what he's provided, bro, has been nothing short of brilliant. And these guys have stepped up to the challenge in terms of offense. The line has kept their heads down and worked diligently towards gelling themselves to be a group as opposed to being individuals, paid contractors. They're working as a team. You know, they're working as an actual solidified group. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now that the bye week for Jackson coming back, you know, being healthy possibly. But overall, I'm just happy, man. I think it's a really good thing for the fan base to be able to sit back and just go into a game and not really have a lot of concerns other than hoping nobody gets hurt, right? Like, I don't think anyone can say that they know of a defense out there right now that can stop what we're doing offensively. And like I said, all our defense really now at this point, all to do is just get maybe 1 or 2 stops, get the ball back to them. We get a lead, it's pretty much a done deal. You're not catching them. Beep beep, they gone. So for me, man, it's great. It's great to be a Dolphin right now. Mm-hmm. And watching this kid, man, watching the grown man now at this point, mature right in front of us, and shut up all of the naysayers, man. It's just awesome. I love it for him. I love it for everybody that rode with him, and everybody that didn't ride with him. Now you got to eat that crow. You know what I'm saying? And I don't understand why you would still continue to want to stuff more crow down your throat. Just, you know what I'm saying? Change the menu. You feel me? Because this kid is here, man. He's him.
It's time to stop eating crow, and it's time to eat that humble pie and admit you're wrong.
Just admit you're wrong. You know what I mean? We'll let you back in. You just gotta say the magic words. That's it.
Neal, he makes a good point, man. 7-3, the Dolphins control their own destiny. It's a good time to be a Dolphin fan.
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time on today's show talking about our expectations in the preseason, and now we have 8 games, 10 games out there, so expectations change, and in this case, expectations change for the better for me. And I think the best story in football right now is the revenge tour of Tua Tagovailoa. And I believe in fate, and I think that we're going to see an AFC showdown between Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. And I think it's going to be I believe in fate, and I think this Dolphin team is dangerous. And I kind of half jokingly got some things scheduled in Arizona for Super Bowl weekend. I'm on record to say that I think the Dolphins will be playing the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I think this is a special thing we have going on. And I think this is just the start, which makes it really exciting because this team's young. The coach is young. There's a lot of flexibility. And, winning football makes players want to come play there. And, if you're a guy out there and you're a number 3-4 receiver and you want to get a big payday, you might take a 1-year deal on the Dolphins for way less than market value to go there, get some balls, not see as much coverage. I just think this is a special season, and I'm ecstatic to see what happens. And I just can't even imagine if it plays out like this. But, I think the last thing I'll end with is you and I both said early on our pod that we thought this team had a lot of the feel of the Cincinnati Bengals last year. And that if Tua could get to the level we thought he would, that they could even be a better team than that Bengals team. And I think Tua's at that level of Joe Burrow right now. And I think this Dolphins team from top to bottom on this roster is actually better than last year's Bengals. So fins up. I always love joining this panel and having a go on. And Richmond, I just want to say it was awesome seeing you back there. I was seeing the photos of you back for the Browns game, man. That was awesome to see.
Thank you. Man, I had a blast.
Swing the towel. Attaboy, getting the crowd hyped. Martin, your final thoughts?
Yeah, man, I'm beyond ready to see the Dolphins just stamp themselves as a contender moving forward, and not only to the point where it's only for this season. I mean, like the same way we look at Kansas City Baltimore, Buffalo. Miami is making that climb. You know, they're making that climb into that upper echelon of NFL teams. And the reason why it's so special this time around is because, you know, everyone keeps saying it. There's no ego. There's no ego on this team, man. Everybody sincerely wants to see each other do well because there's a commonality that nobody believes in the Miami Dolphins. And when you have a coach that really, you know, stirs that pot perfectly, you know, just because he's just a smart guy like that, you're creating pretty much a vortex and a storm of, okay, brace yourself, because anyone that wasn't ready or prepared to see the Miami Dolphins out of all the teams coming into this year to have what Neal said, a Miami versus Dallas Super Bowl appearance. And I'll tell you real quick, you know, just throw this out here. If Miami and Dallas meet up in the Super Bowl in Arizona, there are going to be so many reported brawls in bars, at local walking strips, or what? Because Dallas Cowboys fans in a Super Bowl in 2023, that you're gonna have the most out of control human beings on the planet in Arizona if Dallas is out there. And you know how Miami Dolphins fans do. We ain't backing down for nobody. It's gonna be a straight brawl out there.
I'll throw some haymakers. Let's go.
It's gonna get real, man. But honestly, man, all jokes aside, I'm ready to see what this team can really do when everything really matters, as far as San Francisco, Chargers, Bills, Patriots, Packers, Jets. Like I'm ready to see how they respond in those games. And there's nothing that has shown us otherwise that they're not going to be at the very least prepared. So I'm you know, all we have to do is just sit back, relax, and you know, enjoy the show, man. And you know, thank God this season is turning out the way that we hoped it would be, and even more.
Yeah.
Fins up.
All right, guys. So again, tomorrow night, I'll be back with Martin, and we'll be breaking down basically narratives. We'll show y'all all 22, and we'll kill a bunch of narratives that the media and other people are putting out there about Tua. You know, we'll show you they're nothing but false narratives. Then Wednesday night, me, BallGame, and Richmond Webb will be live for the finish line. Friday, I will be back to preview as we get back into the motions, the Texans and Dolphins game, and then back to live reactions this weekend. Davis Mills and Damian Pierce, amazing running back, and the Texans, and we'll take on the Dolphins. It should be a good game. As always, until next time, everyone stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed. And as always, again, fins up all day, every day.
Peace.
Happy Thanksgiving.